This is all about Bitcoin, a show dedicated to all things, questions, and markets related to Bitcoin, little b for the currency, and Bitcoin, big B for the network. A collective journey to understand, apply, and use this innovation, all Bitcoin, all the time. I'm your host, Christine Lee. Let's check in for a live look at Bitcoin. The CoinDesk Bitcoin price XPX index is currently at $33,000 and just slightly below that right now. It's up about 0.4% over the past 24 hours. Bitcoin swinging back above $30,000 after briefly falling below that psychological level earlier today for the first time since January, testing that $30,000 resistance level. The most reliable reference prices for institutions since 2014 are now published under the CoinDesk brand, trusted globally as the leader in crypto news, events, and data.
The chart of the day is brought to you by Crypto.com, the world's fastest growing crypto app.
An increase in Bitcoin selling pressure is happening in tandem with selling from short-term holders, specifically wallets that have held Bitcoin for 6 months or less, according to Glassnode data. While on-chain activity has slowed significantly over the past month, with long-term holders down there in red remaining especially quiet, the recent price drop is correlated with newer investors capitulating after investing during the recent 2021 bull market, represented in the yellow and light orange lines you see over here. Analysts telling CoinDesk the market looks bearish, with demand-side pressures weakening in the wake of regulatory fears and the Federal Reserve's recent hawkish tilt. Furthermore, amid China's central bank ordering the country's major financial institutions to stop facilitating crypto transactions, Asia-based crypto exchange OKX saying, quote, "There's no direct evidence showing people in China are buying the BTC dip." Taking a look at our top stories, the People's Bank of China instructing financial institutions to stop providing trading, clearing, and settlement services for crypto transactions, sending jitters throughout the crypto markets. While the PBOC's anti-crypto bias is not new, the latest statement comes after consultation and signals from major banks in China that they will take steps to prohibit virtual currency-related business activities. Meanwhile, shares of MicroStrategy falling with the Bitcoin it holds in its treasury reserves, with the price of BTC just north of $29,000 this morning. Its break-even price loomed at an average rate of $26,000 per coin. At last count, the business intelligence firm held over 105,000 Bitcoins, making the firm by far BTC's largest known corporate holder. And finally, a deputy of El Salvador's opposition party, FMNL, filing a lawsuit to stop the country's new Bitcoin law, arguing it is unconstitutional and doesn't consider the harmful effects it could have on the country. Earlier this month, the country's legislature passed a law by a supermajority making Bitcoin legal tender alongside the US dollar. El Salvador is the first country to make the crypto an official currency. And joining us now to discuss is Secure Digital Markets Executive VP of Sales and Trading, Mostafa Al-Mashita. Welcome to the show, Mostafa. So we see that Bitcoin is slipping below $30,000 earlier this morning, but now it's rebounding. Are we due for a lower fall?
Look, I think that if we dip below 30,000 for a significant period of time, which means, to me, I typically look at a 3-day close. If for 3 days consistently we are below $30,000, it is not a good look for price action into the future. Although this bid side action that we saw this morning, pumping Bitcoin back up to $33,000 is pretty bullish in my opinion. I think that that was the kind of action that we were looking for. It shows us that there is some significant buyers looking to accumulate BTC below 30,000, which is why we didn't spend too much time under that level. If you got BTC below $30,000, consider yourself lucky, and that was an incredible dip to buy.
All right. At the same time, we're seeing news out of China that they're cracking down on mining, and as well, they're telling banks not to, I guess, fund accounts related to crypto exchanges. And what impact do you see that on the crypto markets? Is this anything new or just the same as always? What's your assessment?
Look, news out of China this is something that's been ongoing for a few years. This isn't anything new. This isn't something that traders look at and say, this is something that, is a new development. people in China have always found a way to acquire BTC no matter what it takes. If people are interested, there's methods to acquire BTC. Now, their more accelerated ban and more strict stance on banning Bitcoin, that has been a little bit of a concern coupled with the mining ban activities. So, I was at the Bitcoin 2021 conference and I was speaking with some of the larger miners in attendance. And, the main consensus is that there's not enough sites in the US that are miner ready to support the influx of miners fleeing China and looking to deploy their miners in other locations. So that, coupled with the drop in hash rate and the more accelerated ban in China, is, in my opinion, bullish because it reduces the amount of centralization that is a concern with Bitcoin. That the majority of the hash rate is in China. There's a lot of whale activity happening in China. The entire market is looking to get a little bit more decentralized, and you see that with Foundry, popping up in the top 3 mining pools worldwide. So, in my opinion, this adds to a stronger fundamental base that will naturally take Bitcoin to next levels. And when institutional capital looks to talk about Bitcoin and the risks, this is something that is extremely positive.
You mentioned earlier that people were buying at $30,000 today, and they may have been the lucky ones. But what kind of volumes have you been seeing, and what kind of activity lends itself to your assessment of where the price is headed?
100%. I mean, we saw some. We're on an OTC spot trading desk, and we have a lot of clients coming in and looking to either offload or acquire larger chunks of Bitcoin. And this morning we saw a few institutional funds that have been waiting. Some had limit orders, some look to buy, get an RFQ quote and get a quote to buy around the 30,000 level. We had some people that were looking to capitulate and jump ship because they think that if it breaks 30,000, it's going way lower. I've seen the 30,000 level break a few times, and there in the past few weeks or past few months rather, every time it broke, it was rebounded right away. And I think that just shows you kind of the level of interest and volumes that we're seeing in the space. Mind you, it is summer. It is a fact that people have been inside for the past year and a half, closing almost 2 years. People are looking to get outside, enjoy the weather. There's a lot less volumes being thrown in the space. There's a lot less traders sitting in front of their computer, looking to trade every altcoin and trade every bounce, trade every move. Which is why, in my opinion, we will continue in this range for up until September, October, and then we shall hopefully resume upwards.
You mentioned institutional interest. We see that MicroStrategy could potentially be getting a hit if prices go south of $26,000. But I wonder, what kind of institutional interest are you seeing right now? Is it having a chilling effect to this bearish market, or are you still seeing a lot of interest?
We still see a lot of interest. We see institutional funds jumping in. We see some family offices acquiring some BTC at these levels, some ETH. The alts, people are still generally risk off, considering the risk that is associated with alts and how much they act as a higher beta play to Bitcoin and Ethereum. So we're seeing a ton of interest both sides. We did have a lot of sell side pressure during the Coinbase listing week. And it was interesting to see because there was a lot of bullish factors associated, but people were looking to take risk off. At the moment, we have some good buy side volume. It's nowhere near what we saw at the start of the year, but it's certainly starting to accumulate and starting to stagger some numbers, especially as we. I had a couple of weeks where I was talking to the team and I was like, look, this is insane. This is the highest volume that we've hit, and it's been growing on a week by week basis. And that number has only increased. We saw a small dip as start of June rolled around, but now volumes are jumping up to all-time high levels again.
Do you have a price target for the end of the year?
I would say $75,000.
Okay, still quite bullish. All right, Mostafa, thank you for joining me this afternoon.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, that was Mostafa Al-Mashita from Secure Digital Markets. Coming up, a look at migrating miners out of China. Welcome back. Chinese Bitcoin mining firm BitMining delivering 320 machines to Kazakhstan after being forced by the state energy regulator to shut down its data center in Sichuan province. The company is expected to send another batch of 2,600 machines before July 1st. Yesterday, a Chinese logistics firm saying it would airlift 3 metric tons of mining machines to Maryland, leading to a so-called hash rate migration from the east to the west. And joining me now to discuss is Ben Gagnon, Chief Mining Officer at Bitfarms, a Canadian Bitcoin miner. Welcome to the show, Ben. So what do you make of this crackdown in China mining that we're seeing right now?
Interesting. I think it's a very interesting development. It seems like the pendulum is swinging now. About 30 years ago, we saw manufacturing swinging from the U.S. to China, and now it seems like Bitcoin mining is going to be the pendulum swinging back. Bringing this high-level innovation from China back to the U.S. So we have, received lots of inbounds. We have lots of network connections within China, and everybody is looking to North America as their primary jurisdiction for new mining activities and bringing their new miners here.
Are you interested in buying Chinese equipment or interacting with mining firms from China and seeing them integrate in North America?
And we're having discussions with, lots of different Chinese miners. Nothing that we can, really comment on right now in terms of our strategies moving forward. But there is lots of different opportunities happening. This is a very fast market, and Bitcoin is one of the freest markets in the world. And so, it is a really incredible thing to see. I think we're proving that Bitcoin is really anti-fragile, that we can move so much of this hash rate so quickly across the world, without having a significant impact on the network. But really, the only thing that, we're seeing as a North American-based miner is our transaction fees are going up. And next year that we should see, or the next difficulty cycle, we're going to be seeing a huge increase in the amount of Bitcoins we mine and the cost of mining those Bitcoins. So it's a huge benefit for us.
So as a miner, what are you doing with your Bitcoin? Are you selling any? Are you accumulating?
We're long-term believers. Since the beginning of this year, we've been putting almost every one of our Bitcoins on the balance sheet. We have an average Bitcoin production cost in Q1 of $8,500. So even as the Bitcoin price pulls back, we're still very, very profitable business. It doesn't really matter how far, Bitcoin's pulling back. If it's at 30, if it's at 25, we're still producing Bitcoin for a fraction of that price. And so all the Bitcoin we're putting on our balance sheet is a huge benefit to shareholders. And we're able to hold on to that Bitcoin for the long term.
Mm-hmm. With these China mining crackdowns happening, it is having a slight impact on the Bitcoin network, bringing the hash rate down. And 3/4 of Bitcoin's global hash rate is in China. That is a total combined computational power that is being used to mine and process Bitcoin transactions. And some say having that power distributed more evenly around the world is a good thing. And I guess you were just saying, I guess you agree.
Yeah. I mean, this is part of the whole idea behind Bitcoin, is that we are a decentralized network. I think having 75% in one country is not good for the long-term health of Bitcoin. And I think we'll see Chinese go to a lot of different locations all around the world. You just pointed out Kazakhstan being one of them. I'm sure a lot of people are going to go into Russia as well. But I think the primary jurisdiction really is going to be the US and Canada. And that's really because we have all of this existing infrastructure that was built up over hundreds of years in terms of the hydro plants, the substations, and everything else. When big industry left and outsourced off to China, a lot of this infrastructure has been left dormant for decades. And it does provide a really significant opportunity for new investment and miners to come in there and revitalize those areas.
Right. Well, behind hydroelectric power, China's miners rely predominantly on coal and natural gas. Do you think with this migration that will change?
There's a significant opportunity, I think, for them to become, more green. I think a lot of the Chinese miners in Sichuan, they're almost all hydro in Sichuan, and they would be primarily hydro in Yunnan. It's really the areas of Xinjiang and Inner Mongolia that were, primarily coal and others. As we go over to the US, I do think hydro is one of the areas where there's significant opportunities. In the province of Quebec, where we are, we're operating 5 different sites. We've got a 6 underway, and we're taking advantage of all these hydroelectric dams that were built by old industry, iron ore mining, logging, gold mining, all this stuff over the last 100 years. And that's really slowed down, been outsourced, or become more energy efficient. And so, the hydroelectric dams are still there. They're still producing that power. And we're finally, finding an industry that's willing to travel to these remote locations and invest. And I think that provides a boon to everybody. I mean, we have enough hydropower in Quebec, I think, to power the entire network if that was all we were doing. There's a lot of hydropower infrastructure throughout North America. And I think that's going to be one of the primary targets they look for.
Okay. Looking forward to seeing those developments. Thanks for weighing in, Ben, and sharing your insights.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, that was Bitfarms Chief Mining Officer Ben Gagnon. That's it for All About Bitcoin. I'm your host, Christine Lee. Join us tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. in New York for First Mover, your first look at the day's global crypto news headlines. You're watching CoinDesk TV.